Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you. Let's get into our third or fourth pillar of Islam. So we already talked about Islam means submission. Muslim is the one who submits, and I know I always keep on repeating that, but it's a good review that a Muslim is a person who submits. Islam is the act of submission to one and only God without associating any partners in his worship. Anything that a Muslim does, whether it's giving charity, whether it's praying 5 times a day, or whether it's fasting in the month of Ramadan, if you ask him why do you do this, the main answer is, well, because God said so. So there's two sources of our knowledge. One is the two main sources of our knowledge are Quran, which is the word of Allah, and the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, which are not part of the Quran, but they are teachings. They're still teachings by Allah, by God, to his messenger, Prophet Muhammad, and he's explaining it to us in his own words. Of course, Quran is the literal speech of God, but hadith, or the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, are simply his saying, but his sayings are practically a law that we must take and apply it in our life as well. So one of those teachings from the Quran and from his sayings are talking about praying 5 times a day, of course, testimony of faith, fasting in the month of Ramadan. And again, these are not voluntary actions. These are something that is mandatory. If you claim to be a Muslim, then you better do these actions. And one of them is charity. Now, there's charity that you can just be, while you're walking on the street and you see a homeless person and he says, hey, can you give me some money? And you can give it to them. That's charity as well. But when we talk about zakah, that's an act of worship that the intention must be. Remember, any actions for a Muslim to be accepted, you must have intention. Okay, intention. Why are you doing this? And this is, yes, I'm about to do this act of zakah, and there's certain categories. You can't just give this money to any cause out there. It has to be. So there's some conditions, and we'll get into what those are. So there's this general charity in Islam as well, but then there's a specific one called zakah. Now, what is zakah? Zakah literally means purification. You purifying your wealth that is given to you by God in the first place, and he's asking you to give a little bit of it. So you purify your wealth. With that, you purifying yourself, and it is hard. I mean, this is what wealth that you have gained by your hard work and effort, or so you think, because again, at the end of the day, this wealth is given to you by God. So you have to purify yourself. It actually and with that, God is actually telling us that because you give, you're actually gonna grow. Okay, so your zakah is actually a means of growing your wealth and purifying your wealth, and of course, it's the means of blessings as well. Okay, so this is a general meaning of the word zakah. Now, zakah is given of 2.5%. It's not just, I have $5 in my pocket, I'm going to give. This is specifically 2.5% of savings. 2.5% of savings. So a lot of times you might hear a Muslim has to donate, 2.5% of their wealth. What if I have a $300,000 house, and then I have a $25,000 car, and that just that's about $10,000 if I really do my numbers and I have stocks and bonds and things like that. 2.5% of savings is a lot of money, and I'm going to be giving that out of my pocket to poor people. So how do you explain that? 2.5% is a lot of money. Yes, percent, but again, this is nothing compared to how much we shop and how much we spend and how much we waste out there. But again, we have mentioned 2.5% of savings, right? So let's get into what does that mean. Before we get into that, now what if there's a poor guy, he has $1,000 in his account, that's the only wealth that he have. Does he have to give whatever $25 or so? Does he have to give $25 out of his $1,000 that he has, which could mean a lot to him? No, there's a minimum threshold that is there. Okay, so let's get into what is that minimum wealth. Okay, that minimum wealth is 3 ounces of gold. 3 ounces of gold. Okay. 3 ounces of gold. Now, you look at the price of gold Okay, and there's of course silver is involved in this as well, but I'm just giving you a very high level explanation of this, and it's always, if you're a Muslim, you have to do this zakah, this act of charity, and the best thing will be go to your your local imam, a leader of your mosque, and ask them, hey, am I really fulfilling the obligation of my zakat? But I'm just giving you a high level explanation just for our non-Muslim audience, for new Muslims and general Muslim as well. At a very high level, what does zakat mean? So 3 ounces of gold. So you go on, Google, type in, price of gold today, and see what the price is. For right now, while I'm making this video in December 2014, it's about, let's say it's $1,200. $1,200 times 3 equals $3,600. So quick math lesson. $3,600 is the minimum wealth that you must have. Okay. Now, you also have to look that how long you're supposed to have it for, right? So it is for the whole lunar year. So already, when we were talking about the Ramadan and fasting, I explained to you briefly what a lunar month is. So lunar month times 12, so you have 12 months. That will be a lunar year. So if you had, $3,600 or above, of course, and you had it for more than a year, more than a lunar year, it's about 360 days or so. But let's say you had $3,600, it did not go down behind this point, and it was always $3,600 plus more, and it was there for lunar year. Once you do that, then at that annual date. So let's say we won't go talk about the lunar month. So let's say on January 1st, you had $3,600, and then on in February you had about 4,000, and then in December you had about same thing, about $3,700, right? So at this date, it's about a year now, right? It's about a year. Let's say from January to December, it's about the same, a lunar year. So let's say you had $3,700. Then you say, okay, well, I need to pay 2.5%. Okay, it did not go below this minimum amount of $3,600. It's at $3,700 times 0.025. That is your 2.5%. So let's take our calculator, and then we say 0.025 times $3,700 is about $92. That's your zakah, right? Now, of course, the next thing will be like, okay, well, fine, I get it. And again, don't take this literally as a law. This is just a high-level explanation. Don't forget to your local imam if you really have to ask about your personal situation and get into what does it mean to give zakah. But let's say on December you had about $10,000. Then you would take 10,000 times 0.025, and that would be about $250, right? And that's your zakah amount. But then the next question is, what does it mean by the savings? Okay, like I own a house, is that considered a saving? And the answer is no. So let's quickly look at, so we talked about the minimum amount. We talked about the minimum year that, or the time period that you must have, and let's look into the wealth. When I say savings, it is talking about your stocks, your cash, maybe some jewelry, right? Not jewelry, let's say jewels, right? Maybe you had so anything that basically surplus, okay? Anything that's just sitting around that you're just saving for investment purposes, just sitting around, and you're not using it. So these are not, you don't add up your clothes and your car and your house, whatever the value is. I'm talking your principal resident, right, where you're living. These don't count. They do not count as, because you're using them on your daily basis. I'm talking about things that you're just putting on the side. You're not circulating it in the economy. because you're just saving it, you're just hoarding this money and this wealth, you're just putting it on the side. And what's the purpose? Like, if you don't bring it to the economy, then there could be some poverty, and people can benefit from this. It's just sitting around in your pocket just doing nothing, right? This cash and jewelry and any of this investment purposes that your wealth that you're just saving, and could be something that you might want to benefit later on, but right now you're just not using it. So why not use it and bring it to the economy? And that is, so you add up all of this. Again, this is not a very high level, and this is a disclaimer, very high level explanation of zakah. So you add up all of this and then give 2.5% to the poor. Now there's organizations out there that you can just give them money and say, this is my zakah money. Okay, and you do that on an annual basis. Usually a lot of people give this in the month of Ramadan just to keep it easier. They say from Ramadan to Ramadan, it's been a lunar year, and we will add up all of this and give 2.5% of our this extra income, extra savings that we have, and we will give that to an organization that takes this money and then gives it out to the people who benefit from the zakah. Now, from the Quran and the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, we will list all of these people who can benefit from. So you can't just give it to your dad and say, "Dad, here you go. Here's some money. Go help yourself. This is my zakah to you." No, it has to be given to poor people, okay, the needy, and you can also look at it at kind of like saying Islamic tax, right, that you're giving, but it's not on your income, it's on your savings, and even that savings that you just that's sitting around, and it has to be a minimum amount. So there's a lot of conditions that you can see. So it's not taking your $300,000 house and giving 2.5% on that. So it's a lot, I would say, easier than our normal day taxes. Then the collectors of zakah, they have to get paid too. So those whose hearts to be won, and we can it's basically there's a person who is very inclined towards Islam. If you give them money, it could attract them even more towards Islam. So this is the money that you can use for them as well. Captives, Muslim slaves, in the custody of another army or so, you can give them money and say, hey, we want to free the slaves. So basically freeing the slaves. Modern day slavery, debtors, right? So you can help somebody to get out of debt. Then we have a mediator, basically a person who's trying to reconcile between two people who are fighting. He can use his personal money to fix problems amongst two people in the cause of Allah. And again, I can't go into too much detail of each of these. Travelers, okay, somebody's traveling, you can help them out so these are all the categories of people who can benefit from zakah. So again, the easiest thing is look for an authentic organization that is in the works of distributing zakah, and go to your local imam and say, this is what I have, can you just help me out calculating my zakah, and then come up with that, and then tell them the minimum that you've had this money for a whole lunar year, and this is how much it is. These are the different categories. Then he can help you out into more detail and say, yep, this is the amount of zakah that you have to pay. Now you can even give it to your mosque, and the mosque can take this money and help out all of this category, okay, of people. Or you can donate it to different organizations that are out there, which are their sole purpose is to take this money of zakah, this charity, and distribute it amongst the people. So that was a quick, high-level lesson on the zakah, on this charity, obligatory charity, not the voluntary one that you do, but this is the one that you must do if you're able to. And we talked about what that means. Who's financiable. Responsible for giving zakah, and the categories of people. And at the end of the day, it's all about purifying your wealth and purifying yourself, and having this money that you've been hoarding, and making sure that it gets redistributed into the economy so other people can benefit as well. So with that, we'll end, and we'll move on with our last pillar, which is the pillar of pilgrimage.